welcome back to Otaku no Video. As always, thank you very much for joining me for a review of Black Rock Shooter, the anime. The anime coming out of a Hatsune Miku music video. Who's Hatsune Miku, you may be asking? Okay, very briefly, Hatsune Miku is a vocaloid. She is an instrument, in a sense, that is packaged as software and sold to people in Japan. Basically, you can compose music and then play Hatsune Miku's voice to the music as though she's singing. So you can sort of layer this voice in as a singer and thus make music with a singer in it without actually having to get someone to record it. And Hatsune Miku is very popular, both in terms of composing, but also art of her character. And so there's tons and tons of artwork of Hatsune Miku out there, and people drawing things. Well, a while back, an artist drew this very distinctive drawing of Hatsune Miku with a completely original outfit and with a very unusual style for her. She has a more bright art style to her normally, and this is a much more punk, sort of gothic style thing. Not quite in the sense of typical goth, but in the sense of very muted color palette, kind of grungy style. And the drawing was called Black Rock Shooter. And this inspired a composer to write a Hatsune Miku song called Black Rock Shooter. Then that artist went back, yes, this is going somewhere, went back and animated a complete animated sequence for a music video. And so there was a music video of Black Rock Shooter with this nicely done animation all the way through. And this was popular enough and got enough attention that a full-scale anime studio decided to sit down and make an hour-long anime film of Black Rock Shooter. Now you might think, okay, it's going to be basically this long music video weird thing. It's genius. I was blown away. Very interesting. It is basically two storylines. One concerns a couple of girls in a junior high school, apparently an all-girls junior high, in Japan, of course. The other is girls in a post-apocalyptic wasteland beating the snot out of each other with large weapons. Not complaining. And it goes back and forth. The two are related, in a way, but it's basically back and forth. And the thing is, the junior high school story is this kind of Studio Ghibli-style anime in which a lot of attention is paid to visuals. There is minimal dialogue throughout the junior high school sequences as you see the girls relate and interact. A lot of it is communicated through expressions, which is very difficult. The action sequences have no dialogue at all. And you're trying to understand, why are these characters feeling and seeing these things? Very remarkable. Very high animation budget. I mean, this looks like basically like a Studio Ghibli film, frankly. I mean, there's a huge number of drawings in this thing, and it keeps coming at you and coming at you. Fantastic, and high quality artwork too. It's not just throwing lots of drawings at you. You get a lot of very carefully drawn, very carefully animated sequences in the junior high school and in this, in these action sequences. Moreover, they pick very different animation styles for each. The junior high school stuff is again more Studio Ghibli stuff. If you've seen Whisper of the Heart or The Cat Returns, sort of more in that style. Whereas the action sequences are much more kinetic. There's lots of stuff happening, dust flying, things flying through the air, characters whacking at each other, leaping a dozen yards in the air. Very, very kinetic. Very different. And also the color palettes are very different. In the action sequences, the color palettes are a lot of browns, a lot of grays, sort of this decayed color palette. And the lighting is darker, whereas the other sequences are much brighter, much more like a Studio Ghibli film, frankly. Now, in terms of the characters, it's basically a relationship story. It's about mostly two girls in this junior high school getting to know each other and going back and forth between the two of them. Now, I did have one small problem with Black Rock Shooter. And it's hard to explain because it comes at the very end. And I'm going to try to explain it without doing spoilers, but also try to actually explain it. There's this big mystery. And I did not see it coming. But it shows up and we move forward, and then it's kind of sort of not quite resolved at the end, but it's dealt with in a way at the end. But we never see what actually happened. We don't see what actually happened. And I mean, I like subtlety. I like things which don't give you every single piece of the puzzle where you have to kind of figure out some of the interstitial pieces. I didn't like this because I thought this was a very fundamental piece of the story, and I didn't want every bit of this explained, but I wanted at least a hint of what happened there. Why did this character, It's that kind of thing. And it's just one or two shots would have been enough. So I thought that was a bit of a stumble. And I should explain, in a story with a bit of a fantasy element to it, it's important to establish the limits of your fantasy. You have a real world with sort of a fantasy aspect to it. When something weird happens, you need to sort of understand what that weirdness is. Otherwise, it's very hard to appreciate what's going on and whether that was real or fantasy, whatever. You know what I mean? So that I felt was a stumble on their end, but that could just be me. And I know I've talked to folks who've seen it and didn't have a problem with it at all. So again, that could just be me. Now I must mention the music because this is quite interesting. You will not hear Hatsune Miku's voice in this anime. The music is entirely instrumental. Now it's Hatsune Miku voices, Hatsune Miku's songs. I believe they've all been remixed into full-scale instrumental pieces. But you don't hear Hatsune Miku actually singing, from what I can remember. I mean, maybe in a sequence or two, because anyway. It's instrumental pieces. And that actually works really well for this. The junior high school sequences are relaxed, real-life, slice-of-life stuff, whereas the action sequences are hard-hitting, pulse-pounding action sequences of, ching, that kind of thing. So that actually works really, really well. The voices are no problem, nothing really to complain about. Again, you're not going to actually hear Hatsune Miku's singing voice in this, which is, again, interesting and remarkable. So overall, this is a beautiful film. I mean, high quality, very interesting story, very unusual story in a lot of ways, and something that's told in a subtle way, in a way that leaves you to kind of figure out what's going on. One of the things I really like is the fact that you spend much of the anime wondering how these two different storylines relate and interact. You have some hints here and there, but again, it's a very unusual way of telling a story in anime. And to think that it all started with a single drawing, and now we have this practically Ghibli quality hour-long movie out of it, that's awfully cool.